There are so many angles to look at reality, at our world. And there's one point of view, a new one that is being revealed in these times, a strong, powerful way to look at our reality, the reality of the whole world. When a person comes into this world as a baby, what is it that the parents want most for their child? To raise him, to protect him, to stabilize him, to strengthen him. In other words, to give him a sheltered space. What is a shelter? It's certainty. To give him certainty that he'll have food, certainty that he'll have a home, certainty that he'll go to school, to college, everything he needs in order to grow well and to build up the certainty of his own life. So, really, from this point of view, we understand that every person who comes into the world, without even realizing it, does a whole lot of things just like everyone else. But deep down, all these things have one goal: to draw lines, to build something solid, to make things feel steady and safe, to try and find some kind of certainty in the middle of all the uncertainty of life. That is to say, mainly money. A person who has a salary knows that money is coming in, it gives him stability, it gives him security, it gives him certainty, and it allows him to live. And not just money. For example, where will he live? What will happen? What about the kids? There are endless examples. I don't want to go on about it. It turns out that as a person goes through life, studying, working, and so on, what he's really trying to do is build up, little by little, more and more areas of certainty for himself. Because there's nothing that shakes the human mind more, nothing that scares it more, that makes it panic more than the feeling of not knowing what will happen tomorrow, what will we eat tomorrow, where will we live tomorrow, what will be tomorrow. Even when everything is okay for a person, he starts to worry about his kids, about his grandkids, and the worry never really ends. So, as human beings, we're always trying to make more and more of our life feel stable. And what is stability? It's certainty for our children and for ourselves. So if going to college or learning a profession or doing anything else can help with that, then you go study. Why? So you can earn more and have more certainty in your life. Basically, every action we take is to build something solid. Like building an island you can stand on in the middle of the water. In the beginning of the book of Genesis, it says, "And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters." We see that at first, everything was water. What is water? For a person, water means uncertainty. Because when someone steps on water, they sink. But when someone steps on land, it's like certainty. He walks on solid ground, he feels safe. So we see that in the beginning, everything was uncertainty, but the uncertainty at the beginning, the uncertainty by itself, not someone looking at it, that is the absolute certainty. He knows what will be in the end, and he can also change it. If a person knows and understands this story, he can change the certainty in every person's life. Meaning, in the human race, the deepest and strongest fear, the one that doesn't let us sleep at night, so to speak, but it's true, is that fear. What will happen tomorrow? Really, what will happen? Suddenly, a war, suddenly the markets crash, suddenly this, suddenly that, and a person calls his life certainty. But really, we don't even notice that the certainty he talks about is actually the biggest uncertainty there is. But because the human brain can't understand it, it holds on to the side of certainty. But inside that certainty, and inside his life going to work every morning or to school, we don't notice that suddenly, God forbid, a friend or family member or someone else is killed in a car accident. Suddenly, someone said something to him, or that's the day he found out he has some illness. Unexpected things, they happen all the time. Where? Inside our certainty. The brain just can't take it. So it keeps going with the certainty it built in its life, goes to work and all that, and doesn't notice that suddenly something happens to his friends. Suddenly the unexpected comes. So what we call certainty is really full of holes, of not knowing, of uncertainty. And in the end we'll see that what we call uncertainty, that's the real absolute certainty. There's nothing else besides it. It's a certainty that nothing in the world can shake. So this is what we need now. At first, a person tries to make land out of the water from the uncertainty he was born into. He tries to make it more solid so he can put some sand there to step on. In the end, the thing will really be like this. The sand we built, the certainty we built, will need to give it back to the water to really trust the uncertainty and not trust the certainty. Because we see it simply when a person trusts in certainty, like he puts money into something, suddenly the investment is gone. Suddenly something happens. Suddenly, God forbid, he has a heart attack. I don't know, there are endless things we have no control over. But the person doesn't want to see that because he wants to get more and more control so he can rule over chance, over uncertainty, over what's unexpected, over what he doesn't know. But it never works because uncertainty, randomness, always comes suddenly. A person drives on the road and suddenly someone hits him from behind. Not his fault, nothing. He can die, get hurt, go to the hospital. Suddenly, no job. Suddenly something happens, suddenly disability, his whole life changes. From what? From the randomness, the uncertainty that's always there. Where does it happen? Inside what we call certainty. We need to make order in this when a person really starts, little by little, to understand the secret of absolute certainty. Because what we call certainty today is a broken stick, a broken support. It's not real certainty. In the end, a person sees he has no control over his life. I know many people, for example, who are afraid of flying. Why are they afraid of flying? The numbers show that flying is much safer than cars. So why? Because on a plane, even the subconscious knows he's not in control. The wheel is not in his hands. He has no control over the situation, and that makes him feel panic inside. He can't handle being on a plane. Why? Because it's a time when he's not in control. That means he doesn't have certainty in that moment, so he's afraid of flying. It's just a small example, yes? So really, now the world is going toward the new world, and we will see little by little that everything we believed was certainty will slowly fall apart more and more, because we will start to put our hope and our trust in the uncertainty. And we'll see that the thing that is the opposite of the person, he will trust it more than anything. And why all this? Because the root of a person's life is fear of randomness, of not knowing, of the unexpected. Why? Because the human understanding is built to look for certainty. And what we call uncertainty, it's not really uncertainty. It feels like chaos, but it's not chaos. We need to understand this well. It's really not chaos. There's a pattern there, and there's a higher understanding, very, very, very high, that the human mind can't reach or understand. It can't grasp the higher order that rules the uncertainty. So the mind tells us, stay away from that place. That's the uncertainty. But the truth is, there is wisdom there, deep and wonderful and amazing, with no end. So when we start to know the wisdom of the uncertainty, then a person can really live forever because of certainty. Certainty in what? that he trusts the uncertainty more than he trusts the certainty. And really, we see that the so-called uncertainty, which is actually a very high and wonderful wisdom, is the one that rules our life. And a person can never rule over the uncertainty. Like we see clearly, all the uncertainty comes in something unexpected. Even governments and very high organizations can't rule over it. But it's like the end of every person. In the end, after everything, after all he did and worked and tried, whoever he is, from any religion, any gender, rich or poor, we see that in the end, everyone returns to the ground. That's the absolute certainty. No one in the world can now doubt what I'm saying or say I'm wrong, that their end won't also be in the ground. There's no other way out of this world. So what do we see from this in a simple way, without going deep, that what looks to us like the root of uncertainty, which is death, right? We don't know what will happen after death. We don't know. That's the root of the not knowing, and it's the only one, the one and only thing that is really certain. No one argues about that. Everything else people argue about. But the fact that we'll go back to the ground, those who believe there's something after death and those who don't, it doesn't matter. This is the one certain thing that exists in the whole world without any arguments. There is wonderful peace in the world about this one thing. We see that the not knowing, which is like death after 120 years, can actually be used even in this world if we understand how to really buy, in quotes, to buy some space, so to speak, in the area of uncertainty. And every bit a person buys, in quotes, in the space of uncertainty, gives him certainty forever and ever. A kind of certainty that comes from all directions, that the human mind can never expect or see coming when it comes to this thing. So right now, the purpose that's being revealed, the new purpose of the world, is to turn the uncertainty, which is like an ocean, like a sea, where we have no way to see the future, what it's hiding inside, for each person and for all of humanity, is to turn the ocean into land. The more a person actually feels the safest walking on the water, then there won't be any fear in the world, no worries, and he'll be able to use the uncertainty, which is really endless. He'll be able to use this endless thing inside our life, which is full of limits, full of narrowness, full of what we call certainty. We'll say this rule again. What is uncertainty? What is, so to speak, a coincidence, randomness? It's something that's above the limit. Why? Because it's something you can't know before it's not expected. That means in that place, all the endless combinations in the world can happen. Because if we don't know, then anything can happen. Good, bad, this mix, that mix, trillions and trillions of combinations come from the future, which is the next minute, which is the uncertainty, which is randomness, and that's what the mind calls uncertainty. Why? Because the mind, which is stuck inside the limit, can't hold information or behavior that's above the limit. So the mind blocks it, locks the whole thing, and goes back to where it belongs, the place of certainty. Yes, but if we start to understand how to go into, in quotes, the markets of uncertainty and get a hold there, we'll see that uncertainty is really a way to create huge power to grow. It's something above limits, above time, and we can bring it into the personal life of each and every person. So it's not just that he'll be able to take in more and more uncertainty in his mind and turn it into certainty, but even more it will give him more confidence, less fear, less worry, and then he'll be able to rule over life.